Welcome to the Talent Optimization Podcast, the go-to podcast for CEOs and HR professionals wanting to bridge the gap between the strategy and tactical implementation of talent optimization within their organizations. Through interviews, predictive index, and personal experience, your host, Tracy Shirk, helps you discover the facets of talent optimization from both a CEO and HR perspective to truly create the dream team for your organization. Are you ready? Let's get started.
Welcome to the Talent Optimization Podcast. My name is Tracy Shirk, and we are talking about policies that impact our culture. And we're kind of on this compensation trend this month, which is fun. And, there's nothing that gets people more worked up than money or not having money or thinking somebody else makes more money or less money, like undies all of a sudden get in a bundle. So I've got Laura Morgan with me today. And I made her laugh. So Laura is with me today, and she is the founder of MorganHR and Simply Merit. And she specializes in engagement and compensation strategies and systems to make pay feel fair, relevant, and right so that people aren't all crazy about what money they're making.
That's about it. So the big word is the feel factor. So we could always have the policies, but if people can't feel it, then they'll make up in their head what that is. So that's a lot about what we focus on.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit, Laura, there's so much happening right now in the news. We've got chaos, we've got inflation, we have, resignations, we have recession, we've got all these things, and companies are making all these policy decisions that we kind of look at and go,
Yeah, there's a lot. So a lot of this is being driven by, as you know, there's the policy and social. Politics and social environment. So I think the social is really leading more so than the political for a change. And I'm seeing a lot of policy. I'm getting calls regularly. It's kind of intriguing where we need to create a structure. We need to create guidelines. And we're going back into what is a promotion. People are needing today. I couldn't believe that they haven't had this, but they're really starting to look at, we had policies on promotions. And now they're trying to break them apart because they actually became more restrictive and not helping with salary movement. Things right now we're in this chaos, as you said, but the fluidity, people think when you say policy, it prevents flexibility and being fluid. But you can have a policy that actually gets you to allow it to be more fluid. Oh my gosh, the biggest challenge I have is when a CEO says, well, I don't think we could do that. I'm like, you're the CEO. It's like, it's okay. Your job is actually to help. I will help you know when to pivot. I will help you know when you have to shape something new, and we'll do it thoughtfully. But I see policies about promotion being asked about, can we do them twice a year? Sure. Why not? How about what is a promotion? People have questions about what that policy is. I had one that they should remove. If anybody still has, God forbid that they do, the rehire policy, when they used to say no rehire, those should go away. So right now you're going to need to rehire. And I actually recommend that you get ready to do that.
Right. We love boomerang employees.
Well, they already were vetted. They've been proven, but companies used to have you leave us and you're gone. You're dead to me. And now they should have it. Because I remember at a very large pharma company, we had to go to the CEO to get it approved of a very, very large Northern Illinois pharmaceutical company. If you check my profile, you can guess which one that was. But they used to prevent rehire. You couldn't do that. If you left our company, you'll never come back. And in this day and age with people leaving, so there are people dusting off policies that they didn't know that they had that were so saturated in their business that it's a huge change management to say, we can do that. I said no to that person. I didn't know we could do that. So we're doing kind of policy busting, I guess, if there's a word. So regarding policies, I think the word policy has a starchy feel to it.
Yeah. And I think before we get into pay policies, I just want to name something on policy busting that I love what you just said. And that is, please, 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 please ensure that your managers know what your policies are. I got a call yesterday from a client that says, hey, Tracy, we've changed our PTO and our vacation policy. PTO is paid time off, and our vacation policy 4 times in the last 18 months, and they want to change it again. And I said, so what's the problem? Why do you want to do this? And she's like, well, we got people mad, like screaming through the plant and doing X, Y, and Z. And I said, okay, how about this? How about you decide what you want to do and you stick with it?
Right. How about that?
And then let's make sure you train all your managers so that they're not undermining you.
I know.
Because that's going to be so helpful. So now let's talk about policy and pay.
Right. Well, and that's another one too, because I often tell people that nothing's true until it's written. So they might have a policy that they just never really, they've been following a guideline that's been an assumed one. So one would be, we never give anybody a salary increase greater than 6%. Okay, why? And is that a healthy policy? Is that something that we need to write? And if we need to write, then yes, now that's the rule, right? So, but there are these policies that I think different departments shape on their own. And that's usually what we have to do, is kind of understand what the current state. So pay policies are on the broad-based pay. I think those are the ones that most people see. Hiring rates, what's the policy for hiring somebody above market? There will be a policy about inversion, which is bringing new people in above the current employees. Will we allow inversion? Compression, do we have a policy that prevents a manager? Believe it or not, this happens. Managers might not have a higher salary than their direct report. That might be a policy, or a company might be okay with it. And just in that example, that happens a lot in biotech and pharma. So a new manager might have an incoming PhD, double PhD, or something like that, and you got to bring that market level pay. But that's base. I often need to help remember that the equity or the incentive that you have makes up for that. So some policies on comp are designed for broad-based, similar level roles. You see a lot more policies written for, I hope it's understood, but the lower wage earners, those that have consistency, very competitive. That's right now where the competitiveness is very hard to attract those people under $100,000. So when their salaries are above, you're reading in the news what happens when you bring in too many of those. You start having a lot of the reductions. But on the under 100,000, then you start looking at, okay, what is our pay policy or practice that we want to write and communicate? You are right about communication. It's really sad when you have salary ranges and you don't share them. Now, certain states are saying that you have to, but
yeah. And I think with that, like if you go back to the podcast I did with Aaron, you will hear us talk about pay transparency and the laws and the impact on culture. Like it's huge. And then the podcast last week with Dan talks about, hey, how do we kind of create these systems to really serve that well?
So I think I've had more conversations from HR that they don't know how to handle those conversations. So it's not, and then that just bled into the managers not being confident on how to handle those conversations. And then the employees, they end up creating their own conversation with people outside of the company saying, hey, I have this issue. And so it just creates all this festering of emotion. And if people were more consistent in their policy and their process and sharing it more so, it's pretty straightforward. I mean, I've been doing this 35 years. And I actually have my own policy with my team. I end up saying, present to me what you think you're worth, and I'll let you know if I'm going to pay it. And but imagine how open and honest that is.
Right.
And that's more so I have a policy book, I have ranges, I have an incentive plan. I have things that you would expect, but you have to, I think the policies, as your business grows, a lot of CEOs, I talk a lot with small business. My client group are usually between the 300 to 2,000 people, right? Those that usually HR people came from a large company and they go to a new one. They're like, holy cow, we have nothing. So nothing's existing here. And I need policies, I need process, I need systems, I need all of it, right? So
and those are all the things we do. Like we can help with that, right?
Right. But that's where they start. So they know what they like. So the worst thing they do is that they copy a policy handbook from their last employer.
Don't do that.
And that's the thing. So therefore, it's almost like that Cinderella slipper that doesn't fit.
Yeah.
All of a sudden they tried it on. Oh, I got a lot of backlash, as you mentioned, with that PTO policy, or why it worked fine over there. Well, that's the point. It worked fine in that business, not necessarily your own.
Right. So I am curious. You said something a couple of minutes back, and I want to dig into it because it was so good. And so, like, as we're talking about policy, and you said, hey, HR people don't know how to have the compensation conversation. And then our managers don't know how to have the compensation conversation. So our people feel they're not being compensated properly, and they go outside. So you're the expert. How do you have a compensation conversation?
Oh, I love this. Thank you. I think it's
like how I just reeled you in. I'm like, wait. We just missed like the most important conversation of this entire episode.
This is really funny because I actually believe we got to get even middle schoolers comfortable on asking their parents why their allowance is a certain way versus somebody else's.
Yeah.
And I also offer this as, so we got to get everybody used to one, having an allowance, and everybody having ability and comfort to ask their parents what this is.
Yep.
But what we have to help people remember is that once they get out of the elementary school and even college, that relationship of parent to child is actually going to turn into adult to adult. So, because what happens in these conversations today, they're still asking mommy or boss or not what their salary is. So there's this ownership on both. Don't rely on your boss to come to you and only at that time to give you that feedback or that information. Move them into the adult to adult conversation. On the other side, when you're a boss and you're feeling your employee is putting you into that parent to child, you come back and you turn it from the north to south pole to east to west. You make that conversation adult to adult, because I don't think any of us hire children. Really.
Correct.
We're all hiring adults. But if we all could remember that it's an adult-based conversation, what do you need to do to have a really equipped conversation? You have to know the lay of the land. You have to know how you feel. You have to understand how that person feels. You have to dig a little bit deeper what motivates that individual, right? So then I had an employee, and God love him, he's a good friend. It was really very funny. And if he listens, I'll make him listen. How would you like that conversation on a Tuesday? Laura, I need a promotion. By the way, I'm getting married on Saturday. Okay, wait a minute, what? So needless to say, new dad 9 months later, he was living with the lady for years, but he ended up wanting me to create a new role. And I didn't need a new role. I appreciated his talent. I appreciated his gifts that he gave us, but I had to keep that adult to adult conversation. And I had to say, I really have valued everything that you've given me. I believe we even helped you shape your future career. There's a moment, though, that you have to be honest and say, I don't see me developing any more software. So I have a software product, but I'm not going to need a PhD level software engineer to move it forward. So I had to really level set with him that I will help you. As a matter of fact, let me get you a coach to help you write a resume. Right. And I took it to be, and he was like stunned, like, what? I said, this is what we do here. I had a coaching business. I was like, no, I am hopeful that our relationship will always be strong and always be giving, but it's time for you to go.
Yeah.
And I think what we have here is this adult to adult. If we look at the talent and we know that we don't have as much opportunity, what happened to the day? Let me broker a connection for you. I'll call that other division. I think it's important that you move. So people look at comp as that it's an allowance from parent to child, but the comp is really part of a whole conversation. And yeah, comp is a part of it, but it's not the only piece. If you treat it that way, then you're doing the parent-to-child thing. How many people got a Post-it note saying what their increase is? Those are those parent-to-child moments. Mom and dad don't want to talk, and it's not time for me to interrupt and bother them with that. Then the child feels that way. But if we ended up saying more authentically, come on in, or, hey, I know, have you been checking the news? I've been checking, I checked your salaries. I see what people are posted out there. Do you want to talk about it?
Yeah.
You want to talk about it? I'm like, yeah. Are you entertaining the conversation? Are you wanting to interview? If you are, let's talk. Can I offer something different? If not, I'll be honest with you. And that's what I think. One would be so amazingly sexy and attractive that I think people would be like, that's trust. My boss really cared more about me. And that's a commodity that I can't tell people any more than you're wasting the dollars if you can't get to that intimate level.
Right. Absolutely. So I just want to track our conversation. We went to money's scary and it gets our undies in a bundle, into money and adult to adult conversations is sexy and we need to do more of it, because at the end of the day, our relationships in our business and our relationships with people are all about relationships. So let's just talk about money, baby.
Right. Isn't it? Why I think when we walk in, we get, for whatever reason, I did this test actually in a middle school. I did do a case study on my own. I was offered to do career day, and I actually had kids stacking Jenga blocks. I'll pay you for how many Jenga blocks you stack. And the teacher was jaw to the floor. She says, I've never seen this before. And I said, well, let's talk. So then I had 3 groups in multiple classes, right? So 3 groups, stack your blocks and coach your employees to stack. And I'm going to evaluate how you're doing as a manager. And then I'm going to have them evaluate you as a manager to see how you did. So what was really telling is that there was one boy, of course, a middle schooler. I'm the boss. I get to tell you exactly what to do. I'm going to actually make you do this. Oh, you're doing it bad. I'm going to fire you. Fire, fire, fire. Then there's this, it's stereotyping, but I don't want to do that. But there was a football player in one of these sessions, and he's just like, hey, Tracy, you're doing great. But you know what? Can you take a pause? I think you're really good at that first block, but I want so-and-so to do the next one, because we're going to get this team. We're going to get this all together, and we're going to win that money. I brought in Pez and stickers, and I forgot the other thing, but everybody wanted the Pez, the Pez candy. So, and then the other one was so quiet and meek. Guys, I really don't understand what I'm supposed to do. Okay, it's just stack the blocks. And so there's my 3 out of, I did 9 that day, but the 3 that I remember the most. Naturally, the boss one, all the blocks were falling. I only gave them stickers. And they were very upset that they only got stickers because they were more mad at their boss. The football one, I said, you guys all get Pez, congratulations. And I'm going to give you one extra one, big guy. You give to the one that did better. And then I went to the girl and I said, all right, you get a couple Pez, couple stickers. You get to disseminate this with the team. You figure it out. That right there was so hard for those kids to handle their compensation, right?
Right.
But the one that did really well, then I asked everybody, okay, y'all got your rewards. How did your bosses do? And they actually evaluated the football players, saying, you were just there with me all the time. You shared with me what you thought. You even dangled out, we're all going to get the Pez. We're all going to win this together. So, and then the one that the boss, he gave out the sticker. It was really a tell for me that we can make it very simple. We don't have to make it so overwhelmingly scary, because we all need to remember, as my team does, and if you interviewed any of them, they know that I look at my financials very frequently, and I share with them theirs. And and we talk, and even down to my analysts, they know how we're doing as a business. And it's very transparent. I grew up in a pharmaceutical environment. I'd say we're used to watching that stock price as you walk down the hallway. So that was a good beginning for me, I think, to watch how we always talked about stock.
Right.
And it became that culture. Right. Very different. But I've walked into Discover, very different culture there. Everybody wins rewards. You can feel it when you walk in.
Right.
So, but if you had the basics down, how money is made, everybody knows how to do that. Everybody could talk through it. Then you can start elevating that conversation. Is what's different with us here as our culture? Yeah. What is it that I offer you that's different than, yes, you could go work at Mercer, you could work at all these other large entities. I actually say that we're small, nimble. We have a squirrel as our culture statement, so we pivot quickly. Yeah. But that you can't necessarily say you do that in the large large businesses. So I advertise compensation wise that you get freedom. Your voice matters, which in some respect is cultural. but it's also compensation if you look at it in a whole big package.
Right.
So, you give me
amazing.
I could talk about this one forever. Sorry.
No, you're good. So that Jenga conversation is gold. And I hope our listeners really key in on that. And as we start to close out, I know these podcasts are so quick. So as we start to close out, what's a key takeaway that you have for the executives that are listening in today?
I think executives just need to remember that executive is a role, but we're all people. And I actually know more executives that they get nervous that they are in that spot. So that they know so many eyes are on them that they almost get to immobile mind. But I think if they remember that their self-awareness of being human is more important than them being an executive.
Yeah.
And they can have that conversation. If you could get down to that human element, then the conversation, the decision, policies are there. It all just seems to take shape, and more people will appreciate, going from awareness to understanding to appreciation. They will get to appreciation the more you bring the human element into it. So.
Yeah, I love it. And then what's a takeaway for HR professionals that are listening in today?
So focus on the environment. If you have leaders that might need a little self-awareness shaping, that would be helpful. I think we get into these taboo moments as HR that we can't do anything because that person's golden or whatever. You don't have to terminate. You just might need to have a level set conversation so that their team feels like they can approach that individual.
Mm-hmm.
I think the coaching that we could provide to leaders and employees, I think everybody should have a coach.
I agree.
Why wait until you're a director to start figuring out that you're really a jerk? So why not have that be earlier? We could shape you as you go,
Yeah.
And I think that's where the coaching, so HR, a coach where you can stretch your wings in that space. I think that would be the best thing I could offer.
Yeah, absolutely. So our HR coaching program is available. It is a group coaching program. So if you want to find that is on our website. So did not plan on plugging that, Laura, but thank you.
I believe in it. So
it's so good. And if you want to hear more, Laura, because she's amazing and the compensation stuff that you bring to the table is phenomenal. You have a podcast and we will have that and all the ways to find you in the show notes as well. So with that, thank you so much for joining us this week, and we will be back next week. Have a great week.
Thanks so much for the opportunity.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Talent Optimization Podcast. You'll find more tools and resources for CEOs and HR professionals looking to bridge the strategies versus implementation gap of talent optimization at elevatedtalentconsulting.com. We've also created a free, valuable resource for you to begin bridging the gap called the Talent Optimization Foundation Membership Program. You can access it for free at elevatedtalentconsulting.com/foundation. Be sure to tune in next week for another episode to learn more about talent optimization and creating a dream team for your organization.